it's it's ridiculously big. I was like, Kekistani tapestry? Large. And ordered it, and it's gigantic. Okay, it comes in smaller sizes. Black Hat Family at Redbubble. I'll link in the description where you can get one of your own. Now, Blaire White had Laci Green on a stream for a conversation recently. And first off, kudos to them, because it is great to see people with differing opinions from opposite sides of the aisle having a civil conversation, not quite debate, but, voicing disagreements and opinions, and, walking away happy. That's what we need. However, there was a few things that Laci had said that I mean to address, and it's more technicalities than anything else. But I've taken a few quotes. I cut out, in live streaming, you're going to have some stumbles, stutters, ums, ahs. I've removed them from the quotes, but I didn't take anything out of context. And I'll link the whole stream and the timestamps from the quotes I took, so that you can, see that I'm not fucking around. Now, okay, the first quote I have here. I'm not saying gender is biological. Gender refers to the social meaning that we ascribe to sex. End quote. And then she goes on to, describe things about gender roles and just basically expand that. And all of her expansion is absolutely correct. It's the premise is not quite right. Gender is biological. Until very recently in history, the word gender was only used in reference to language. Like in French, there's gendered words that require gendered articles. Le is masculine, la is feminine. And then in the 50s, a doctor by the name of John Money, I'm told, started using gender to expand on the word sex, which basically the word sex refers specifically to reproductive roles. And gender he used to start from the reproductive role and expand into all the other gender roles. I think this is where this was coined, the gender roles term. So it did include biological sex. That was the first role, right? Pollinator, get pollinated. That's it. And then, everything that seemed to logically follow those roles. So that's what that is there. That it does, gender is biological. It's more than biological, but it is biological. Another quote here. The idea that behaviors are mostly biological is a little bit of a tenuous claim. Not really, no. We see it in all the animals, that they have very specific behaviors based on being male or female. And see, now, we have certain luxuries, humans, but a lot of animals don't. That the animals that don't fall into their gender roles often fail. That they aren't successful, they don't breed. End of their line. And now, we, as humans, have a more complex and sophisticated society than animals. So that doesn't happen to most of us, that there's room for everybody, really. But that doesn't mean that the behavior isn't biologically driven. She even goes on to mention certain, like that we've done so much research about behavior and society and emotions and psychology that we have the power to manipulate behaviors and emotions. Now, like Pavlov's dog, that's really only possible if we can predict the response, meaning that the response is biological, that you know it's going to happen to a person if you do this, because all of our brains generally work this way, which is strictly biological, so the behavior is biological. And just because you know the manipulative trigger, you know the biological trigger, doesn't mean it's not biological. It means it's very biological. Oh, I gotta pause for a second. Hold on. Laci then asks Blaire about the definition of gender. And Blaire goes with the dictionary definition, which is, acceptable. But Laci says, in a more academic setting, people break it down into smaller parts, which is necessary to understand some of the finer points of these issues. No. It's necessary if you want to make shit up. Okay, in the 70s, when the feminists appropriated the word gender from and tried to basically strip it away from biology so that it's now, they tried to make it a separate thing. You then theorize about it without having its biological root, which means you can just manipulate it into whatever you want. And then you can turn it back, point it at biology, and end up with idiots like this.
Basically, it's not correct that there is such a thing as biological sex.
It's ridiculous. It's here we go. Intersex is a pretty solid third sex. No. Categorically false. A third sex would be a third reproductive role. Sex refers to reproductive roles. Intersex people do not introduce a third reproductive role. That's it. It's not a third sex. And if sex and gender have that strong bond, that one is merely an expansion of the other, it's not a third gender either. Okay. This is my last quote. We have a theory of gender, we have a theory of sex, and it doesn't accurately explain all these facets and the incredible diversity of human beings. Intersex is a very small category, but it's still millions of people, and we have to account for that, and if we're not, there's a hole. Nope, no hole, because it's totally accounted for. Basically, we understand that XX chromosome means female, XY chromosome means male, at least in humans. I think in all primates, at least in hominidae. Pretty sure about that one. So, the presence or absence of a Y chromosome determines whether or not someone is biologically male. If there are other chromosomes present, it doesn't change anything. It just means it's a variation of male or female. So it's not unaccounted for. It's totally there. It's all fits into the theory. So, there you go. That was it. Felt like pointing out a couple of those technical things. If I'm wrong, you go ahead and tell me. There's comment sections. Whatever. Not trying to be a dick about it. Oh yeah, no, there was later on something about a couple of times Laci said, I'm just being pedantic now. Laci had said, oh, to Blaire, that's anecdotal, and then almost immediately about something else says, well, that's not my experience. That's anecdotal. Sorry, Laci, you can't have it both ways. Again, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I just thought that was funny. Anyway, relevant links to shit I said in the description? Maybe. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.